Chief Constable, one of the most important parts of my role is in a governance sense to look at the performance of the Devon and Cornwall police force. So I've generated some questions here, both from our recent performance meeting, but also from my own working with the public and some of the questions that they've raised. So I've got a number of questions for you, and I look forward to your answers. The first one is, what do you see as the major risks in delivering my police and crime plan for Devon and Cornwall?
I think the biggest risk has to be the sustainability of the budget over the police and crime plan. I know you've worked hard, Commissioner, seeking to understand the budget platform, and have tried to make it as sustainable as we could be going forward for the period of your office. That will always be subject to the risks of national finances, the global economy, and what's colloquially known as CSR2. But with the resources that you've put in place right now, certainly for the next 12 months, 2 years, ideally 3 to 4 years, your period of office, that risk has certainly mitigated. The second key risk, I think, has to be the understanding of the workforce. And I know at our performance meeting, you asked me the questions of how am I communicating that to my senior leaders, and how is that reaching the front line of policing so they understand the priorities. And I think you've been very clear on those priorities, particularly the key areas around alcohol, around domestic violence, street violence, working with young people, reducing reoffending. It's set out originally in your original manifesto and refined in the police and crime plan. My workforce, key people, understanding what we want them to do, as well as keeping the people safe. Those are the two biggest things, will be my initial response.
Right, thank you. Second question is, total crime is falling, which is of course most welcome, and yet the public seem to be less satisfied with the service the police are providing. Do you have any explanation for this, and what are you doing about it?
I think it's in two parts. There tends to be a lag, and the public in Devon and Cornwall have a really high expectation of the police service, and we're very lucky to enjoy a lot of public confidence. So we still remain one of the highest, as independently measured by the British Crime Survey. We're still in the top quartile of forces. And even the last report, remember that's independent of policing, showed we've gone up by 1%. I think some of that lag was very much due to the difficulties the force faced. This was, and I'm not just saying it, I wasn't the Chief Constable at the time, a very efficient force. And so for us, the comprehensive spending review was a double whammy. And we did lose and have lost 450 officers and nearly 400 police staff now. And some of that was played out in the public domain, and understandably so. And I think the public confidence on whether we could do a good job or not was knocked by that. And I think it was also knocked. There was a report by Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary last year, which was critical of the force. As you know, we've just been re-inspected, and we await to see what that says. If, as I would very much anticipate, that's going to be more positive, and I think again that will feed in. At the local level, though, there is no doubt the public see less officers. You know, our response times, we're still in the main hitting them, but inconsistently. And you and I were on a joint platform at the Devon County Show where it was response times, and I suspect when we're at Cornwall, it'll be the same. So partly response times, partly visibility, and lastly, I think it is some of our processes. And I hate talking about processes, but we stopped attending some things that actually have a big impact on the public. Vehicle crime is one of them. So the deputy last week, looking at the resources you've given us, is able to put that commitment that we will attend far more vehicle crimes. Now, we all know the likelihood of success won't be greatly affected by attendance. You know, it is usually a crime in action detected by the public or police. But there's a reassurance that the police have attended, that they've engaged with the public, and it's that engagement that I think we can do better. At the end of it all, there are less officers, but meeting the needs of victims we can improve on.
And do you think you're communicating with the public as well as you could do?
No, you can always improve communication, and I think there's been two parts to that. There's obviously people forget that I was only the Chief Constable proper, as I would call it, since February,
Yes.
when in a selection process you
Yes.
selected me. So yes, I've been here as Chief on paper 12 months, but there's something, and anyone who's watching this who has a sort of an acting role, you can only do so much because you're not sure it's yours to take. So probably the first 12 months was more of a stewardship and holding it
Yes.
for whoever's going to run it. Now, I feel I can go out and engage a lot more, and certainly in the months to come, you will see a lot more engagement from me and the Chief Officer team on some big crime initiatives or big crime challenges within the force. A lot more media, and certainly we're discussing the options of some public platforms together,
Yes.
where accountability and local problems can be discussed rather than force-wide, actually getting into the geography
Yes.
individually or together to answers the public concerns, or to hear to public innovation and how we can improve.
Yes. Well, I thank you for that. And I think the issue for me as I go around the public, as the public's representative, is sometimes people, I think people want to know about policing, want to understand it better. And I'm trying to make that connection with the public and to explain to them the nature of policing, the challenges police face, and now the way that, in accordance with the Act, that I'm trying to hold you as the Chief Constable to account. What new issues are the police pursuing in the current year with regard to safeguarding vulnerable people?
Safeguarding really comes in two parts. There's the statutory, particularly around young people, that's been around for some time. But in the last probably 18 months, there's been a lot of work by Devon and Cornwall. Devon and Cornwall had a very good track record in safeguarding, but we've sought to broaden that. The big challenge is managing risk to vulnerable people across the panoply, both the statutory and non-statutory, which goes really from young people but to now the elderly, to adults, to mental illness, to issues of missing young people, a far wider umbrella. And a lot of the solutions to those problems don't sit in policing. We tend to react to an incident that has occurred. We can do some problem solving, but our partners actually are the gateways to the solutions. Now, in that statement, I'm not critical of them at all, but the public would have seen again and again reviews where someone's fallen through the cracks and we learned the lessons. Well, for public confidence, you can only do that so many times, and secondly, for the needs of victims, you should only do that so many times. So we've engaged with partners in the peninsula looking at a genuine end-to-end review of safeguarding. Now, we covered Devon and Cornwall. The political and local authority landscape in Devon and Cornwall isn't written that way. And so, Commissioner, we've spoken about taking this to very senior levels within local authorities. You sit on the health and wellbeing boards with the National Health Service or the Health Service Trusts, and actually engaging at high level for genuine end-to-end information sharing and problem solving. Why is that so important? One, for the victims. Two, to actually prevent future victims. Young people who grow up in problem families can often become problem families, not exclusively so, many get themselves out of it. But thirdly, there's a lot of money here. We're all making cuts, and if we all make those cuts individually, I fear, and I know you share the view, that it's the victims that will fall through the gaps, and we can't continue to allow that.
Yes. Okay, and I think we probably both hope to see that these high-level fora, the Health and Wellbeing Board, even the local Criminal Justice Board, seek to transfer expenditure from downstream to upstream to try and make more of prevention in the process and early intervention.